Hello, hello, radiant witches. I am so honored to be here today. I am bringing on a very special guest. His name is Tariq Amawi. He is a paradigm-shifting storyteller, speaker, and writer, known for his ability to speak directly to the soul. From receiving standing ovations on global stages to supporting 6, 7, and 8-figure leaders in crafting their message, Tariq has dedicated his life to truth, freedom, and transformation. We're diving into one of the most provocative topics of our time, dating in post-2020 world. The intersections of sovereignty and intimacy and the realities of navigating relationships when values and worldviews don't align.
So basically between the years of 2020 to, I would say, 2022, 2023, I personally witnessed a lot of social engineering being used to divide people. We saw euphemisms such as staying apart keeps us together, and encouraging everybody to segregate and ostracize and vilify those who are making choices for their own health based on the information they were given. And I don't hold judgment towards people who either did take the shot, not take the shot, because I feel like those who did were simply relying on the institutional care that we have been groomed into putting our faith and trust in for decades of our lives. And those who made the choice not to were simply abiding by their own intuition and their own sense of gut knowing that something doesn't feel right, something is off. So either way, I feel like we were all making choices for the best case scenario for our health, our family's health, and that is a common ground that we can unite on.
Welcome, witches, to the Radiance Unleashed and Unapologetic podcast, your permission slip to embody your primal, raw, unapologetic nature around who you are as an empress, queen, a witch, and a medicine woman creatrix. My name is Saber. I am an esoteric global business mentor supporting women all around the world to align with their cyclical nature and how they're doing, being, and receiving in life and legacy. If you love what you receive in these transmissions in this show, please make sure to follow and leave a review. Make sure you share with a fellow witch and a sister. I am so honored that you're here to receive, enjoy, and blessings on your journey.
Underneath your flame, cut the cords around me as I speak your name. It's never gonna be the same. Even though I loved you, it was all in vain. And now I gotta break away. Put me in the water, tell me I'm renamed. Higher self reclaim.
How are you? Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, I'm really good. How are you?
I am absolutely fabulous. I'm really excited about this. Actually, this conversation came up in my dreams last night, and I woke up and I was like, yeah, I have other interviews that I'm doing today. This one, it just really stands out to me because I feel like it's a topic I have not really shared about much, but it's a topic that's really, really real for me. And it's really challenging, actually, navigating. So I'm really, really excited. I think it's just something that's really deep and important to my heart. And I also know a lot of people, I have a lot of friends that are vaccinated and I love them and I have no judgment to them, but there's just there's a really deep alignment with the partner that you choose in life and intimacy. So yeah, I'm just really excited to unpack this. I feel like it's going to be really, really powerful. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting this conversation into being.
Yes, absolutely. Well, why don't we just start off by sharing the core message of your movement that you're creating with Unvaxxed Sperm, because I know I watched a live of yours at one point, and you were sharing about the reclamation of unvaccinated, and it's not about judgment to others because a lot of us didn't really know better when 2020 hit, right? And a lot of
100%.
people have made decisions. So, yeah, I'm just curious from your perspective what the core message is from the movement that you're creating. That way we can kind of just roll off of the values of what the movement really stands for.
Yeah, sure. That sounds good. So basically, hang on, let me just fix this. Okay. Let's get this balanced here. There we go. So basically between the years of 2020 to, I would say, 2022, 2023, I personally witnessed a lot of social engineering being used to divide people. We saw euphemisms such as staying apart keeps us together, and encouraging everybody to segregate and ostracize and vilify those who are making choices for their own health based on the information they were given. And I don't hold judgment towards people who either did take the shot, not take the shot, because I feel like those who did were simply relying on the institutional care that we have been groomed into putting our faith and trust in for decades of our lives. And those who made the choice not to were simply abiding by their own intuition and their own sense of gut knowing that something doesn't feel right, something is off. So either way, I feel like we were all making choices for the best case scenario for our health, our family's health, and that is a common ground that we can unite on, that we were all doing what we thought was the best. And so this idea kind of just dropped into my head one day, and I was like, what if we could use social engineering to bring people together instead of to divide people? What would that look like? And so that's when this idea kind of came into being. And it was one of those things that was so out there and so absurd on the surface that I was like, am I really going to create a movement called Unvaxxed Sperm? Like, that's so left field and just so different than what I've been known for sharing about. I've shared a lot of spiritual concepts, conscious concepts, helping people change decade-long addictions and things like that. But to suddenly come out with Unvaxxed Sperm was just like, whoa, what happened to Tariq? But for me, it was this way of saying, okay, we've had the pro and anti, we've had the for and against narrative and rhetoric. What if, regardless to whether you took 2 shots and 3 boosters, or you decided, you know what, my immune system is good enough, I've got this. Can we all agree that we live in a largely contaminated world, that what passes for food these days is actually chemical substances that are packaged to look edible, and the water that comes through our taps isn't as clean as we would like. The air that we breathe is full of chemtrails and who knows what else is aerosolized into the air and the atmosphere. The topsoil is depleted. Our clothes, if they're synthetic, leach microplastics. I mean, the list goes on and on. So can we agree that in our modern version of the world, we all need to detox, we all need to cleanse, we all need to purify, regardless to what choices we made? And what if we gave that process of purification a new label and we called it to unvax? So it's actually not about the vaccines at all. Unvax is an acronym that stands for Unified Network Vitality Activism Experience. So essentially, it's a network of people who have all agreed that we need to strive towards a greater level of vitality together. And so we have people in this community who've taken the shot, people who haven't taken the shot, and now there's common ground. Now everyone's like, hey, regardless to what choices you made, I respect you for that, but let's all unvax together. And in the same way that the red pill and the blue pill conversation in the Matrix became synonymous with awakening, right? To red pill somebody meant to awaken them to the truth, to lift the wool from their eyes and have them see reality for what it is. So we're claiming the word unvax as a term meaning to detox, to purify, to cleanse, and to move into greater autonomy and sovereignty, regardless of the choices that you made. And I think that's why there's been so much traction, and that's why it's grown. And there's also deeper levels to this movement as well that I'm happy to speak into, but that what seems absurd on the surface is actually a very meticulously thought out, carefully crafted social engineering movement to unify people together rather than divide them.
Yeah, I love that. Ooh, I'm getting chills thinking about this because the unification is so important. And I love that you're bringing in the detox aspect of it, because you're right. We have toxins all over. We have a full-on toxic lifestyle, whether we try and avoid it or not. So it's something that by foundation we can't fully run away from, but that aspect of the tyranny has been creating the separation in general. Now, I have a question for you about this, especially in regards to dating, right? Because there's a lot of people that, you don't really, it's like on our side, we see that it was fear mongering, right? But then there's the other side where when I have brought this up, some people, they're like, I haven't even heard this question before. They're like, this is fear mongering. And then they'll project that I'm fear mongering. So how do we really bridge the world when you're not like, okay, look, when you're on social media, you can connect with your people, your audience, you get a little bit more of a curated bubble, right? But in the real world, how do you actually bridge that gap to create this connection with somebody? Like, say, for instance, for example, me, I'm here in Paris, right? If I meet somebody and I am speaking with them and they're asking me on a date, and I have a couple of questions just to see about our values aligning. I'm tuning in with the energy too, but there are core value questions. One of these is the vaccine. I'm curious, how would you really navigate that conversation to bridge common ground so it doesn't feel like it's about separation or judgment?
I think it becomes more complex in the world of dating because you're not simply respecting somebody's choice and autonomy. That choice now affects you. Because essentially what you're saying is we're about to merge biochemistry, we're about to merge body fluids, we're about to combine. I want to know what I'm getting into.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very valid question to ask. And so in my opinion, like whenever this has come up for me, I just said like, hey, listen, I just want to see if we're aligned. What was your view on the pandemic? Like which side of the fence did you fall on at the time? And it's not to make a judgment, it's to make an informed decision.
Yeah.
And so I believe that right now between detox protocols, which by the way, we share very openly in our community, for entertainment purposes, of course, only, not to be misconstrued as medical advice in any way, but
Right.
but the detox protocols that we found are listed there, because now you have things like nano blood filtration, where you can actually remove nanoparticulates from the blood, transfuse the blood, and bring it back in clean. There's all kind of spike protein detox protocols. There are different herb supplements that you can buy that cleanse the body and chelate the body from graphene. And I mean, there's so much that's available now that has become available since all of this debacle happened. And so if you have taken the shot and you feel like, oh, now in hindsight, I wish I didn't, like, it's okay. You can still unvax. That's the whole point, right? Is it's not, did you take it, did you not? It's like, have you gone through measures and protocols to bring yourself back to optimal health? And when it comes to the dating world, I mean, it depends really where your borders and boundaries are. But that's an important one for me, and I know from having spoken to a lot of people, it's an important one for them. Some people don't even think to ask; it's not even a question.
Yeah.
Yet, for me, it's one of the first questions.
Yeah.
And also, just while we're on the subject, and I don't say this with any judgment, I say this from a place of being informed. Whenever somebody has a mysterious death in the family, or somebody who has no history of illness and all of a sudden they have a turbo cancer or something, my first question is, did they get the shot?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it is my personal belief that a large number of those shots exacerbate and amplify latent abnormalities in someone's genetic code and bring them to the surface. So if you have, for example, heart disease that runs in the family, it'll bring that to the surface. If you have some other kind of hidden issue that might be recessive, it then brings it into its expression. And that's why I think you have people who are getting all kinds of different things, from like heart disease over here to cancer over there. And so nobody's connecting the dots and correlating that it's all being caused by the same thing. But the common denominator is a lot of these mysterious out of nowhere illnesses, in my personal opinion, have come into being since taking the shot.
Yeah, I fully agree. Actually, I was just having a experience with somebody here, and we were speaking about this. We connected a lot on a lot of spiritual values, vision values, like a lot of things, except for this piece. And it was because he, I totally understand around the detox. If someone's open and they recognize the control, and they recognize these parts of the matrix, then I feel like we can find some common ground, and we can move forward, and that we can repair, and we can grow, we can evolve from that. But he was very much thinking that I was fear-mongering, yet he had just had a brother that had passed away suddenly 6 months before I met him. I asked him, I was like, do you mind if I ask you, did he take the shot? He had just gotten the shot. So I was like, I kind of was just in this space of, it was very challenging because he just couldn't get away from that, this idea that it's about division, because he's all about unity too, and so am I, and we're both about freedom, but we saw it differently, and it was so challenging, Tariq. It was so challenging because we really were both such a stand for freedom, but it was literally like, where does one actually, if someone's curious about this and is in confliction or confusion or uncertainty, where do they go to find clarity?
I would say, in my opinion, a good place to start is look at the people who were vilified or demonized during that time. People who have heaps of credentials. I'm not saying like some overnight doctor. I'm saying people who've been like immunologists for the last 20 years. Then all of a sudden they became persona non grata and became public enemy number one because they were running counter narrative. Watch the Mickey Willis documentaries, Plandemic, right? There's 1, 2, and 3. Watch the documentary Died Suddenly and make up your own mind. Yeah. Like, don't listen to me. Don't listen to yourself, but have a full broad spectrum data set that you can look at.
Yeah.
And in my experience so far, those who have all of these issues, the common denominator is they got the shots.
Yeah.
And I think it's a cognitive dissonance for a lot of people to accept that, because in order to accept that, you would have to also accept that this was done not simply through negligence, but through intention. And to come to the conclusion that those who are meant to safeguard your health are actually profiting from your illness, and that the healthcare system is actually a sick care system where it's a for-profit business. If everybody's healthy, there's no business. So just on a purely shareholder board of directors, from a shareholder board of directors standpoint, you need sick people in order to be able to have a healthcare system.
Yep.
And so the healthcare system then becomes more profitable the more sick people there are. And that's why you see all of these treatments, but not so many cures, because the money's in the treatment. It's like a SaaS subscription model for a software. It's much better, instead of doing like a one-time charge, it's much better to bill you monthly.
Yeah.
And the reality is, we've come to a place in modern society where a lot of these corporations place profits above people. And so when technology moves at a rate that's faster than human consciousness and grounded spirituality, what ends up happening is people make decisions out of profit and competition rather than out of people and contribution. And so that's sadly the rude awakening that a lot of people have to face right now. Wow, these institutions that I've trusted with my health, with my family's health, aren't actually looking out for my best interest. They're looking out for shareholder interests. They're looking out for corporate interests. And I think that's why also, because a lot of these, because this clinical trial, let's call it what it is, right? I mean, that's not an opinion, it's a technical term. It's a clinical trial, right? So when people say like, oh, did you get vaccinated? I mean, I say, you mean experimented upon?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You mean like, did I undergo the clinical trial? Is that what you're asking me? Because even the term to vaccinate was like what vaccination means. The actual dictionary definition was changed during the pandemic. I mean, how could that not be a glaring red flag?
What is the definition?
Well, I don't know offhand, but it's something along the lines of, before, it was an inoculation that was meant to prevent transmissibility of a disease or a virus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they changed it to say like, well, whether it protects you, whether it helps you from contagion or not, it can still be a vaccine. And it's like, well, what's the point in taking something that doesn't work? And that's also the argument that comes up. It's like, oh, you need to get this experiment so I feel safe. And I'm like, well, if you had the experiment and the experiment is meant to keep you safe, then surely by having it, you are safe, regardless to what I do. Otherwise, why would I have to also take the thing that you already took that is not making you safe? It's just like there's a real fallacy of logic at play. And what I became a voice for over those years was just highlighting the extreme illogical nature of everything. I was like, I need to speak about this because a lot of people are just staying silent. And maybe me owning my voice and sharing this message, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of invitation. I invite you to inquire more deeply. Maybe that can help save someone.
Yes. So powerful. I'm curious of your thoughts, because I know once this episode gets released, there's going to be so many questions about things. I just want to ask a couple little more things that I know would be, especially if this is the first time for people hearing this kind of information. Did you have, I'm just so happy that you're sharing about detox protocols and things like this, because it just gives so much hope within the community, and that you're bringing people together who got it or didn't got it. It doesn't really matter. It's just hope and unity and creating purification within our communities, and that's just the core goal. But I remember there was this moment, because for me, I moved to Costa Rica once we went into lockdowns. I started with our affiliate marketing community, and I was like, you know what, screw this, I'm gonna build my online business and go and just build my freedom. And it was just the perfect time, because I got to show people a way to create freedom in a time where there was such massive contrast. And I kind of went into my own little bubble because it didn't feel like it was a pandemic so much out there in Costa Rica during that time. And when I had come back to move to the Bay Area in California near San Francisco, I couldn't even go to a dance class, for instance, without showing that I had a vaccine card. And then there was a lot of, I found this community of medical freedom activists, and they also were really concerned about even just being around people who were vaccinated. And I just thought, for me, I was honestly, if I wasn't with my ex-partner who was very, who's very tuned in to a lot of these under the matrix, under the hood control in society. And I was really uncertain, and I was in a lot of fear when it had been announced that we went into lockdowns and all this stuff on the news. I don't know if I would have gotten it, Tariq, if I wasn't with, I don't know if I would have gotten it if I wasn't with my last partner. And I'm really grateful for that. But when I had moved to the Bay Area and there was this fear of both sides or the other, people were just afraid of being around vaccinated, people were afraid of being around unvaccinated, and vice versa, because of this idea of the shedding and these kinds of things. So can you just share a little bit about your stance on that?
Well, I mean, this kind of brings me to the point that I was making earlier. It's like, even if you decided not to have the shots, a lot of people decided to have them. So the people that bring you food, the people you interact with, probably family members that you're hugging and so on, like there's going to be some degree of shedding that you experience, because that's just the world that we're in right now, which is why I think regardless to what choices you made, like we all need to unvax together.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it brings me to on that level, is have the pine needle tea. You know what I mean? Did you know that, for example, nicotine destroys the nanotechnology in the blood? So people who are now having nicotine to get rid of the nanotech that's in the blood. And if you think that, oh, nanotech in my blood, that's such a sci-fi concept, it's so crazy. It only seems like sci-fi because it's been presented to you in sci-fi movies over and over again. But if you were to run your blood under a dark field microscope, right? If you have the guts to do that, you would see for yourself.
Have you done that?
I haven't. Not yet. I intend to, though. And the thing is, here's another thing, right? Even if there is nanotechnology in the blood, I believe human consciousness is much more powerful than any technology, meaning that the human body, the human vessel, is the ultimate technology. Nature is the ultimate technology. We're in this preoccupation of artificial intelligence, and realize that even the most advanced artificial intelligence is simply mimicking what an activated, actualized, alchemized human can already do. So everything from remote viewing to telepathy to being connected to a larger network of consciousness, like these are all human concepts. The most advanced robot is the one that looks and articulates and moves like a human. So we need to go from this prioritization of artificial intelligence to human intelligence or collective intelligence. But unfortunately, we're living in this dumbed down version of society where a lot of our spiritual faculties and more conscious abilities are either mocked or laughed at as like some kind of fringe hippie concept, rather than exalted as the true divine template of what it means to be human. Because I believe that anything from clairaudience, clairsentience, clairvoyance, all the different clairs, to gut knowing, which is a lot to do with your microbiome. And that's why a lot of people can't feel that intuition, because they're eating crap. So as a result, they don't have gut knowing, because gut knowing comes from your gut. And if you're obliterating your gut with antibiotics. I mean, it's literally antibiotic, it's anti-life, right? I'm not saying they don't have their place, they do, but a lot of people, I think, jump to antibiotics and think like this instead of coming to a place of seeking more natural remedies, right? Like when you think about it, everything that you need to survive and thrive grows on this planet freely. You were born on a planet where the water on the planet hydrates you, the food that grows on the trees nourishes you, as if it's like some grand coincidence that everything that you need is out there. Any pills that you find today all have their basis in plants. It's herbal remedies that have been extracted and the healing properties of that then put into a pill. But ultimately, it all came from nature. So I feel like we're in this time of reclamation of our nature.
Love that. That's so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. How can people get connected to your community and your movement to unvax?
Yeah, so it's really quite simple. If you aren't familiar with crypto, and people would be like, that was another thing that I had to deal with, is like bringing this out to the world. It was like, oh, I thought you were a conscious spiritual being, and here you are making some like meme coin, and people just fully missing the point of what is being created here. The word meme comes from memetics, right? Memetics is the study of how something that has conceptual value can go viral, right? It's the study of contagion of an idea. That's memetics. So everybody's talking about memes. Nobody knows that the word meme comes from memetics, the study of memetics.
Oh.
And how you can infiltrate public consciousness is by creating something that has high memetic value and has a layer and level of controversy on the surface that gets people talking in the first place. And then the fact that it's connected to a coin just legitimizes it, because now you can see the value of the movement monetarily.
That's amazing.
And so already we've succeeded in getting thousands of people discussing unvaxxed sperm and having these conversations. And if you can't change what you don't challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to change someone's thinking, you have to challenge someone's thinking. If you want to change the conversation, you have to challenge the conversation. And the first way you do that is by actually having the conversation. So if nobody's talking about the efficacy or validity of unvaxxing or detoxing or purifying or cleansing, how can you get to a place where you're actually doing those things? So we needed a way to bring this into mainstream vernacular. And so that was the launch of the meme coin. And, you know, for those of you who are into crypto, we hit 100K market cap within the first 30 seconds. And then we hit a 300K market cap within 13 minutes. We hit a 4 million market cap within the first week. On average, there are 1,000 meme coins launched every day. So for this to even be seen or acknowledged, let alone embraced, is so minuscule, the chance of that happening. And this for me shows that this is a conversation that needs to happen. We're just the ones to bring it out there. But basically, if you, and I can give you the exact details, but if you go to sprm.meme, that website, you'll have a link directly to the coin that you can purchase. And you can have the link to the Telegram and jump in the Telegram. We've already attracted quantum healers, all kinds of people who are in the conscious community. And we're not here to shift the market cap. We're here to shift the market consciousness. So a typical crypto community is operated by two emotions, greed and fear. So there's greed, meaning like this pump and dump culture, right? And fear of like, oh no, I'm going to lose out, so let me screw other people over by crashing the market or withdrawing my funds and therefore taking from everybody else. Whereas within this community, because of the concept of unvaxxed sperm, we're actually connecting it with the idea of semen retention. So rather than just like spilling your load everywhere, like preserve your sacred seed. And so now we have a community that's like holding onto their sacred seed. And this has resulted in a lot of men in the community actually starting to retain their semen.
Yes. Oh my God. I forgot to actually ask you about that. Can we dive into that? I'm going to put the info for your meme coin in the Telegram group in the show notes for the podcast. Can you just enlighten us, please, on this holding of the seed for men?
Sure. What would you like to know?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, let's see. I think ultimately why?
Why? Well,
for those of y'all who don't know what holding your seed means, it means a man that is not ejaculating.
Correct.
In a culture where, you know, men don't last very long in general in our culture because of porn culture, because of just surface level connection and not really going in the depths of what it means to have true intimacy. There's this depth and power for women to unlock their power of having multiple orgasms, and even orgasms from just touch and sense and just energy, right? And then for men, it's a different aspect because they have in their ejaculation, it's this like all of their
life force,
creative life force energy that for us women, our work is to learn how to really be the vitality and circulation of that, emanation of that. And then for men, it's so different for their biology to actually hold and retain that, and it actually connects them to their divinity of their masculine energy. So anyway, that's my intake from it, but I just would love to have your why and your insight on that for the listeners.
Sure. I mean, really briefly, I was just feeling like I had this, let's call it intuitive nudge to start retaining my seed. I was in a point in my life where just things just weren't working out the way that I wanted to. Like contracts were going south, things were falling through. I wasn't feeling abundant, money wasn't coming in. And I'm like, okay, I was just getting this nudge, like the key is in retaining the seed. The key is in retaining the seed. And funnily enough, this precipitated the launch of this meme coin movement. So I almost feel like I earned the right to like get this download of an idea because I was already walking that path. But basically, I started to read and follow these different men who are going down this path. And it was something that I had wanted to do for a while, but never fully did, never fully committed to. And when I came out of my long-term relationship about 8 months ago now, I decided that's it, no more ejaculation. And whenever that feeling would build up, I would sit and do breath work and breathe it up and imagine it going up my spinal column. And you can look into this, but basically what happens as a man is that load is designed to create life. It's so potent that it creates life. So when you don't spill it, but instead use it to infuse your being from the inside, it's like an elixir that makes you younger, healthier, stronger, you sleep better, you're more productive, your ideas are better, you're more cognizant, more coherent, and it nourishes you from the inside out. And I started to become a lot more magnetic. All of a sudden, clients just coming in, things just happening, opportunities coming my way. And I'm like, this is wild. Like the difference was so stark that it was impossible not to notice. And it makes you a lot more magnetic because now you're vibrating with this life force. And it also makes you more trustworthy because you're now transcending your biology, right? Like, think about it, as a man, and actually as a woman as well, but I'm going to speak as a man. We're in a society that's designed to deplete and distract us continuously. It's like, watch porn, go on Tinder, go on some dating app, like date one person once and then like discard them and move on to the next person. And we live in this disposable culture where people are distracted, depleted, and discarded. So by starting to retain your seed, you become 100 times more discerning. You can start to pick up people's energy from a distance. And you'll start to know, like, is this a good match for me? Is this somebody that I actually want to engage in this way with or not? And so it kind of brings your spidey senses online and makes you much, much more discerning with your choices. And I've just found that it's completely transformed my life. And so now it's been many months of retaining. And anytime that I get close to a point of orgasm, I just withdraw and then bring that energy up and breathe it up and breathe it up. And I imagine and focus on my projects in my mind. And essentially I'm bringing that energy into my projects.
I love it. You know, everything that you're speaking about for men's ejaculation, I also see mirroring women's clitoral orgasms. Because for women, it's the internal orgasms that actually carry the juice and the life force energy that fill you up from the inside out, as you said. And for us women, you know, we've got vibrators galore. You know, I made a post recently that was like, vibe or no vibe? Like, what's your vibe? And so many women were, there was so much controversy around it, but I truly believe it's a similar weight of how much it suppresses our creative energy, our magnetism, our sexual energy by that kind of quick fix, that big dopamine, that big up and down, rather than allowing our energy to really circulate and move through our bodies. And not to say like never have a clitoral orgasm, but because it is a different, right? We're not actually ejaculating seed. Now that is a G-spot orgasm, but that also is internal. But that's different because it's totally different. It's actually Amrita is the juice of it, from the Sanskrit word meaning the nectar of the gods. It's very sacred. However, I do feel like it's still a bit symbolic to that surface level connection with our bodies and our intuition and our sexual nature and our creativity and our magnetism and our power really is for women that clitoral orgasm, and then for men that, because you know most women, they're so not connected to this at all that they think that they don't even have pleasure with sex, with internal stimulation, because they have been so conditioned with vibrators, or you know, not even knowing that they could actually connect in that way because there is so much disassociation. So
or having traumatic events happen in their teen years or early adulthood that then shut down that connection.
Yeah, creating that disassociation. Absolutely. I'm very, very familiar, very aware with that. So I really love that you're integrating this into your message I wanted to really highlight that when you were talking about the unvaxxed sperm and how people are holding their sacred seed and the symbology of that, because I feel like it really is bringing in the purification of our bodies, but also the connection to our actual innate cyclical nature, divine power within our feminine and masculine energies. It's literally 444 right here in Paris right now.
Yeah, 444 here too. So there's another aspect of this movement that hasn't been unveiled yet, but once we reach a 20 million market cap, we're going to launch the unvaxxed egg. And so the unvaxxed sperm, the iconography of that is this golden sperm that's like ripped and strong, that has a king's crown and a king's cape. And it's basically this reclamation of healthy masculinity. And then the unvaxxed egg is going to take the form of a heavily pregnant golden queen.
Wow.
And so the idea is restoring sacred union.
Yes.
And so it's funny because in the crypto world, you have things like pump and dump, right? Like that's literally how people describe meme coins. Like they pump the price and then they dump the coin and make some money, but they screw everyone else over.
Oh my God.
And isn't that the society that we're in? Pump and dump? Like, isn't that, so we want to be an antidote to that. And so by restoring the sacred union of masculine and feminine, male and female, we're essentially like bringing back the original meaning of what a power couple is, which is like as a nodal point of energy that can power the community or power the world through this enhanced vibratory frequency that they're oscillating at. Because the sacred union is, I believe, part of the reclamation that we're going on at the moment. And so what's interesting is like for the feminists out there, because I've had people say like, oh, you know, you're just focusing on the men, there's no talk of the woman. It's like, what you don't know is that in order to get one of these unvaxxed eggs, you're going to have to send at least 1,000 sperm swimming. So you'll lose them in order to be able to come back with one egg. And it might be 1,000, it might be 4,000, it might be 5,000, we don't yet know. But so essentially what we're saying is that one unvaxxed egg is worth thousands of unvaxxed sperm.
Wow.
So we're also restoring the rightful place of the feminine as the giver of life.
Love it.
So all of this stuff is baked into a meme coin. So, you know, when people talk about a Trojan horse, this is Trojan sperm.
That's so epic. People are asking in the comments how to join the community movement. So if you could just
So if you're connected to me directly, just send me a message. Otherwise, you can go to SPRM, so sperm.meme, and you'll be able to join the Telegram from there. And then once you're in the Telegram, then all the instructions are there. There's loads of people who will help you. But basically what you need to do is, if you're on iPhone, download a Phantom wallet. It's just called Phantom. It looks like a little white ghost on a lilac or lavender background is the icon. Download a Phantom wallet, buy yourself some Solana. So one Solana, for example, I think is like $170. And then you swap the Solana with the meme coin. And you'll be able to get tens of thousands of sperm at the current value because the market cap is low. But then that value could dramatically increase as more people join the movement.
That's amazing. I love that. And for the listeners on the podcast, where can they connect with you? Instagram, Facebook? What's your Instagram handle? What's the best way to connect?
Yeah, sure. So you can connect with me on Instagram, tariq.e.q.amawi. I definitely have a larger following on Facebook, funnily enough. It's like almost 32,000 people now, because that was the platform that I focused on during those pivotal years between 2020 and 2023, and really where the following grew. Like that was another thing, is people said like, oh, they thought that this was like some premeditated move to like make the coin grow, and I'm like, the chance of anybody even finding out about it is so small. Like it's really hard to premeditate success because you don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work. So my following grew very organically just through being a voice of truth in a time of grand deception. And that's really how my platform grew to be what it is. And I want to be a permission slip for other people to find their voice and to start speaking their truth and to really own their values. And this movement is just one kind of like funny, absurd, humorous way of having a much more deep and important conversation around health sovereignty and restoration of more natural values like the sacred union.
I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom, your voice, your values, and just really being outspoken and really not holding back and choosing not to be silenced to something that's so important to you, important to humanity, important to really both men and women. And I just fully support you. I'm a big fan of yours. I love you so much. I'm so honored and blessed that I got to meet you in person, share stages with you, and I'm really, really excited to continue growing and evolving. And I also need to join this community. It's been on my radar. It's one of those things that sometimes, this has been what crypto has been with me, is like, it's under this rug that I'm like, you just like look under. I know it's not going to be that complicated, and I know that you'll guide people very simply towards it, as we just explained. So now that we have had this conversation, expect me being in there very soon. I will drop everything in the show notes for everybody to get connected with you. And is there anything else that you would like to say to our listeners before we head out?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of pushback from people who know me when I said that I wanted to launch this movement. And I guess my closing remarks would be just like, go do the thing. Like, risk being bold, risk being audacious, risk being outspoken, because the world does not benefit from your silence.
Yeah, 100%. This is why you were the first man that I interviewed on Radiance Unleashed and Unapologetic, because this is what it's about, is to be bold, be unapologetic, and really stand fully firm in your truth. So thank you for being an incredible example of what that looks like, and yeah, continue to make ripple effects across the world. Thank you so much for being here today. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you, Saber. Thank you for inviting me on and for having this conversation. And yeah, it was a real joy getting to meet you in person as well. And I look forward to the next time.
Absolutely. Bye, brother.
Bye-bye.